They claimed to hold the keys to immortality. They whispered of a secret temple hidden in plain sight, and they vanished just as mysteriously as they appeared. For centuries, the Rosicrucians have remained a riddle wrapped in an enigma, a name spoken in hushed tones, evoking images of crimson roses and golden crosses, ancient manuscripts, and divine alchemy. But what if I told you the true purpose of the Rosicrucian order has been deliberately veiled, not only from the masses but from seekers themselves? What if behind their flowery symbols and cryptic manifestos lies a transformative technology for the soul, an inner science of awakening that predates religion, kings, and even time itself? This is not just about secret societies. This is about a map, a metaphysical blueprint designed to guide the worthy through illusion, toward gnosis, toward the light. In this video, we are not merely going to talk about the Rosicrucians. We are going to enter the heart of their mysteries. You'll learn what they truly believed, why their message was encoded in allegory and paradox, and what forces have tried to distort their wisdom. We'll explore the sacred geometry of their teachings, the forgotten origins that link them to Egypt, Greece, and Persia, and how their initiatory path holds practical, even revolutionary insight for your daily life today. But be warned, once you glimpse what lies behind the rose and the cross, you may never look at the world the same way again. So light a candle, silence the noise, and open your mind. For we are about to descend into the temple of the invisible college and unveil what no one told you about the Rosicrucian mysteries. In the early 17th century, a series of strange pamphlets began circulating across Europe. They were ensigned cryptic and revolutionary. Titles like Fama Fraternitatis, Confessio Fraternitatis, and the chimical wedding of Christian Rosenkreuz appeared almost out of nowhere, bearing the seal of a secret brotherhood few had ever heard of, the Rosicrucian order. These manifestos read like divine riddles. They spoke of a reformation of the whole wide world, of a hidden group of enlightened initiates working behind the scenes to uplift humanity through spiritual science. The documents claimed the existence of an invisible college of sages, wise men and women who had mastered alchemy, astrology, healing, and divine wisdom, and who were sworn to aid humanity without seeking recognition. But this wasn't merely idealistic fiction. The Rosicrucian writings fused together streams of knowledge from ancient Egypt, Greek Hermeticism, Jewish Kabbalah, Christian Gnosticism, and Islamic Sufism. Their teachings were not religious in the dogmatic sense, but universal, aimed at awakening the divine spark within each human being. They believed that nature was a living book, encoded with spiritual symbols, and that the true initiate could read her language and unlock godlike understanding. The figure of Christian Rosenkreuz, the mythical founder of the order, was said to have traveled through the East, learning sacred knowledge from Sufis, Zoroastrians, and Kabbalists before returning to Europe to plant the seeds of a spiritual renaissance. His tomb, they claimed, lay hidden in a secret chamber, filled with esoteric tools, strange diagrams, and the Book of Tea, the Rosicrucians' ultimate compendium of hidden knowledge. Yet despite their lofty vision, the Rosicrucians remained shrouded in silence. Were they real? A metaphor? A symbol of inner transformation? Or a secret network of initiates working across generations? Historians have argued for centuries. Some believe the Rosicrucians were created by Protestant reformers trying to counter Catholic power. Others link them to surviving branches of ancient mystery schools, descendants of the Pythagoreans, Essenes, or even the Egyptian priesthoods. But in truth, the Rosicrucian mysteries transcend history. They represent something far more eternal, a hidden current of wisdom flowing beneath the surface of civilization, surfacing only when humanity is ready. Philosophically, the Rosicrucians taught that the universe is a mirror of the divine mind, that every soul carries the microcosmic seed of the macrocosm, that spiritual evolution requires purification, study, silence, and inner alchemy, the transmutation of base instincts into divine wisdom. This is why the rose and cross became their central symbol. The rose represents the flowering of divine consciousness, the cross, the material world and its trials. Together, they form a sacred union, the soul crucified on matter, yet destined to bloom through suffering into divine understanding. But why hide this wisdom? Because in every age, truth is dangerous. The true path of illumination undermines control, dogma, and blind obedience. It liberates the mind from fear and opens the heart to universal law. And so, the Rosicrucians cloaked their teachings in symbols, allegory, and paradox, reserving the deeper truths for the sincere seeker, the one ready to die to illusion and be reborn in light. What remains today are fragments, whispers, and if you listen closely, you'll hear them calling still. To truly understand the Rosicrucian mysteries, we must learn to think in symbols, not words. For these teachings were never meant to be read like a textbook. They were meant to be decoded, experienced, and lived. Let us begin with the most potent of all their symbols, the rose on the cross. Imagine this not as a mere image, but a living glyph, an energetic map of the soul's journey. The cross is not only the symbol of suffering, it represents the four elements: earth, water, air, and fire, and the crucifixion of spirit into matter. It is the descent of consciousness into limitation, the soul's immersion into flesh-time duality. But from the center of this suffering blooms the rose, the sacred flower of regeneration. Petal by petal, it opens, revealing the inner sun of the heart. The rose does not grow beside the cross, it grows through it. And this is the secret. Enlightenment is not found by escaping life's struggles, it's born within them. This single emblem captures the essence of the Rosicrucian path, inner alchemy. Unlike physical alchemy, which sought to transmute lead into gold, inner alchemy is the art of transforming the base elements of the self, fear, ego, ignorance, into spiritual gold, wisdom, love, and awakened consciousness. But how is this done? The Rosicrucians taught that each person possesses an invisible anatomy, a temple of light hidden within the body. They referred to 7 chambers or centers of initiation, corresponding to the planets, the days of the week, and the mystical organs of perception. These are not just chakras in the Eastern sense. They are vibrational gates, each with a trial, a virtue, and a key. For example, the Saturn gate relates to discipline, time, and the mastery of karma. Here the initiate learns detachment and patience. The Mercury gate teaches the purification of thought and speech. The mind must become a clear mirror. The Sun gate, the final threshold, represents illumination itself, the fusion of the human and divine. But this ascent is never linear. The journey spirals, doubling back upon itself, echoing the labyrinth, another favored Rosicrucian symbol. One must walk the same path again and again, each time deeper, each time seeing more. They believe that the human being is a microcosm, a miniature reflection of the cosmos. Just as the stars revolve in divine order, so too must we realign ourselves to the harmony of the universe. Hence, sacred music, planetary invocations, geometry, and even alchemical herbs were used as tools, not for magic tricks, but for tuning the soul like an instrument. But perhaps the most radical Rosicrucian idea was this: the world itself is a coded manuscript. Nature is not random, it is intentional. Every tree, animal, stone, and season contains a layer of meaning. The book of nature, they called it, and the true initiate is not a follower, but a reader of symbols. The wind speaks, the stars reveal, your dreams become scripture. Thus, knowledge is not handed to you, it awakens within you. This is why the Rosicrucians rejected public fame, churches, and grand temples. Their work was subtle, invisible, transformational. They saw no need for followers, only seekers. In their words, "We speak unto you by parable, that the children of the world may not hear us." In an age obsessed with outward power, they turned inward. In a world of noise, they practiced sacred silence. And in a culture of decay, they planted the seeds of a hidden spring. But what of the rumors? The secrets? The whispered powers they supposedly held? Telepathy, astral travel, healing, immortality? All will be explored in due time. But first, we must ask a deeper question. What happens when you begin to awaken? When the rose opens, what awaits the soul brave enough to pass through the veil? The answer, as always, is not given, it must be earned. There is a reason the Rosicrucians shrouded themselves in mystery. It wasn't to appear elite, it was to protect you from premature knowledge. For true wisdom is not simply information. It is fire, and in the wrong hands it burns. Many have claimed the Rosicrucians possess secrets of immortality. Not literal immortality, not the childish dream of endless life in the flesh, but the immortality of the soul, the restoration of one's divine memory. You see, the Rosicrucians taught that each soul forgets its origin upon birth. We are exiled gods, wandering in amnesia. But beneath the ego, beyond the mind, lies a radiant core they called the light of the rose. When awakened, it reveals your soul's true lineage. You are not from here. This is where the mystery deepens. In the sacred texts attributed to the Rosicrucians, such as the Fama Fraternitatis and the Confessio, there are encrypted references to a hidden lineage of initiates, those who, through rigorous inner work, have transcended the illusion of death. These aren't just metaphors. They believed some had achieved a state beyond decay, a conscious merging with divine order. Some called it theosis, others the body of light. Christian Rosenkreutz, the mythical founder of the Rosicrucian order, was said to have discovered this truth on a pilgrimage through Arabia, Egypt, and the East. There, he studied with secret schools, learning the language of the soul, the sacred science of transformation. When he returned to Europe, he brought with him a doctrine that would forever shake the foundations of religious dogma. But here's the paradox. He never sought followers. He built no temples. His tomb was hidden, discovered, it is said, only by those ready to receive. Why such secrecy? Because to unveil the mysteries to those who have not yet been purified is like handing fire to a child. The knowledge of creation, of spiritual power, requires humility, devotion, and above all, purity of heart. The Rosicrucians were not trying to hide the truth. They were trying to protect its sanctity. This is why so much of their symbolism is cloaked in paradox. Take, for example, the phrase, "Our philosophy is not new, but forgotten." This is the crux of Rosicrucian mystery. They were not inventing a path, they were remembering it. A wisdom older than the pyramids, older than writing. A wisdom whispered by stars and carved into the architecture of the soul. They believed that every human carries within them the memory of divine unity. And through meditation, symbolic study, and purification, that memory can be restored. The rituals, symbols, and initiations weren't mere theatrics. They were carefully crafted tools to bypass the rational mind and awaken inner knowing. Consider the symbol of the invisible college. The idea that true spiritual instruction comes not from professors or priests, but from a higher order of intelligence operating beyond time. These teachers appear when the student is ready, not in physical form, but through dreams, synchronicity, intuition. The Rosicrucians believed this inner guidance was orchestrated by a spiritual brotherhood, a group of enlightened beings working silently for the upliftment of humanity. Call them ascended masters, inner adepts, or elder brothers of the rose. Their presence is felt more than seen. And once felt, you are never the same. Even now, in our so-called modern world, their influence lingers. Not through institutions, but through ideas that awaken you. The love of sacred geometry. The sense of déjà vu when you see an ancient symbol. The quiet pull toward truth when the world screams for distraction. These are the echoes of the rose. But the Rosicrucians left us with one final mystery, perhaps the most important. Why do some awaken while others sleep? The answer lies not in books, not in rituals, but in your intent. If you seek power, you will find illusion. If you seek truth, you will find yourself. The Rosicrucian mysteries were never meant to stay buried beneath cryptic texts or confined within secret orders. They were designed to be lived, quietly, reverently, and powerfully, in the world of form and illusion. This ancient path isn't for the cloistered monk or the detached philosopher alone. It is a living current that flows through the veins of anyone brave enough to awaken from the dream. So how do we apply such arcane teachings in the modern age? The answer begins, as always, within. The foundational Rosicrucian principle, as above, so below, as within, so without, is not just mystical poetry. It is a spiritual technology, a map of mirrors, inviting us to realize that every transformation in the outer world must be born from the transmutation of the inner. To begin, one must adopt the habit of daily contemplation. In a world that clamors for constant distraction, stillness is an act of rebellion and revelation. Each day, even for just 10 minutes, enter the silence. Let go of your devices, your duties, your masks. Breathe. Then, ask yourself quietly, what illusion am I clinging to today? What truth longs to awaken within me? Don't rush the answer. Let the question take root. Over time, the rose within begins to bloom. Symbols too become portals. The Rosicrucians revered sacred imagery, not as decoration, but as living architecture for the soul. Choose one symbol to meditate on deeply: a rose cross, a golden pentacle, or a sacred geometric form. Place it in your space. Let your eyes rest on it often, but more importantly, let your mind enter it. Visualize it behind closed eyes. Let it stir something ancient within. These symbols are keys, and your subconscious is the lock. The emotional storms you encounter each day, anger, fear, longing, are not enemies to suppress, but raw material to transmute. The path of the Rosicrucian is the path of the inner alchemist. Turn anger into clarity, fear into awareness, desire into devotion. Every emotion has a higher octave. Your task is to hear the music and raise the note. And what of guidance? The Rosicrucians spoke often of the invisible college, a network of wisdom that transcends physical teachers. It whispers through dreams, synchronicities, and those moments of eerie clarity that strike when least expected. Before sleep, speak to the unseen. Teach me what I need, not what I want. Then listen. Dreams may begin to shift. A passage in a forgotten book might crack open a hidden door. The more you listen, the more the universe speaks. But perhaps the most sacred practice of all is this: silent service. The true Rosicrucian does not seek recognition. Their knowledge is not proven by how loudly they proclaim it, but by how quietly they embody it. Heal without credit, give without being known, bless without being thanked. Let your life become a radiating force, not a mirror reflecting light, but the source of it. The Rosicrucian path is not for those seeking quick fixes or spiritual entertainment. It is for those who ache for remembrance. There are no medals or followers at the end of this path, only the profound rediscovery of something far older than your name, your soul. Beneath the surface of the world, behind the noise of modern life, there lies an ancient current, timeless, silent, ever patient. It is the Rosicrucian stream, and it has never stopped flowing. Not through inquisitions, not through wars, not through the amnesia of modernity. It moves like a whisper through the cracks of culture, waiting for those rare few who can still hear the voice of forgotten truths. What no one told you about the Rosicrucian mysteries is that they were never about joining a secret society or memorizing sacred codes. They were about becoming one, becoming a living temple, a breathing scripture, a walking embodiment of the eternal. You've now glimpsed the hidden roots of the rose. You've seen how the cross it grows upon is not just a symbol of suffering, but of transformation. The crossing point between matter and spirit, the union of opposites, the crucible of inner alchemy. You've learned that the real teachings aren't hidden in dusty archives or behind passwords. They're hidden in plain sight, waiting for eyes that can see and hearts that can burn without being consumed. And now the question arises, not from me, but from the ancient ones who once lit the invisible lamps of the soul. What will you do with what you've remembered? Will you bury it again in the noise of your daily life, or will you carry the light? Will you let the rose bloom in secret within your chest, sending its fragrance into the world through quiet deeds, lucid thoughts, and acts of love with no expectation? This is the invitation, and it's always been yours. If something in you stirred tonight, something old, something true, then stay close. There is more to explore, more to remember, more to awaken. Subscribe if you're ready to dive deeper into forgotten truths and hidden wisdom. Share this light with another seeker. And most of all, live it, because the mysteries were never really lost. They were simply waiting for you to return.